Someone recently asked about financing foreign real estate. That's what we're going to discuss in today's video, really from a holistic perspective. And right off the bat, what you want to understand is your banking system in your home country is nothing like a lot of these places that you're probably looking at investing if you're looking at more emerging market real estate, as we discuss on this channel, or even a place like, let's say you want to buy real estate in Switzerland, or you want to buy real estate in Cyprus. These different areas each have their kind of own different system. So first and foremost, I'm not a lawyer, so contact a lawyer in these individual companies, and that's why I am much more preferring the boots on the ground method. I'm currently here in Turkey, and maybe I'll use an example with Turkey here in a minute, where I met with a lot of real estate brokers and some banks in when I was in Istanbul. I was there for 2 months, and now I'm traveling around some of the southern region, and now kind of moving more east. And it's very important to understand that each of these systems are very different, okay? So, in your home country, let's say you opened up a bank account when you were 18 and now you're 32. So you have nice long years of experience with that. Maybe let's say you've had a credit card with them, you've had a car lease, and maybe student loans, something like this. Now, all these things contribute to your credit score, but you have to understand your credit score, FICO and all these different people that essentially accumulate all these different things on your credit report. It's only really applicable to those banks in their jurisdiction. So especially in the United States, this is a big issue when people go, okay, I want to buy a property in, I don't know, New Zealand. Can you finance it? Can I get a mortgage on this? Most likely your bank will say no. Because you have to think about this from the bank's perspective. Once they're giving you a mortgage, the bank really owns the property. It's not until you fully pay off that mortgage that you actually own it. The bank can seize it, and let's say you default on that mortgage, well, then the bank takes it over. And the bank is always balancing assets and liabilities. And if some person, some 34-year-old walks in and says, hey, I want to buy a property in Tanzania, do you think that banker will go, oh, this is an asset or this is a liability? They're going to look at it from a risk perspective. And this is the problem, again, when you're just looking at it from one individual country, especially if you have not traveled to the country. Again, I cannot repeat this enough. Boots on the ground is what I implore you to do. Do not just search online properties in, I don't know, we can just use where I'm at here currently in Turkey. Just search online properties in Turkey, because you're going to get the worst listings there possibly are. Literally the worst of the worst. It's like the opposite of the cream of the crop. The best way to find foreign real estate is to go boots on the ground, do your own research, go meet with the locals, meet with brokers, meet with bankers, meet with different investors. And I always recommend opening a brokerage account in whatever country you're interested in. That way you have exposure to their stock market. Along with this, some other things you can do is reach out to local real estate people, not necessarily walking in, but one way I recommend to do this is using something like LinkedIn. So let's say you identify you want to purchase property in Istanbul, in Turkey, where I was. What you could do is you could reach out on LinkedIn to individual employees at that company and kind of get a one-on-one. That way you're not walking in and kind of getting this gringo deal. Rather, you have this personalization factor. You reach out to them beforehand. You're not just somebody like walking in, just like somebody walking into a restaurant, right? They're kind of like looking at as how can we kind of maximize profit off this person, rather than kind of having a way in the back door, if you will. This is very important because you can set up meetings, you can build connections and things like this. But back to this mortgage situation. You can, however, potentially get a mortgage in the country you're looking at. Now, this is part of the reason you should go boots on the ground when you're looking at foreign real estate. One of the things that I would say is definitely research the country, obviously, before you go. Make sure, first of all, you understand the political situation and not just reading headlines, but actually, I recommend looking at, okay, how are other countries portraying this? And especially if the United States is portraying a country in a negative light, I am interested. As soon as the United States says this country, the United States at least portrays it on the media, there's what's called a perception gap, or this is at least what I call it. A perception gap, and most people are like, hey, I would never travel there. Most people think oh, this area is so dangerous, especially in certain countries, just because of this media bias, just because they highlight the worst of the worst when there's millions of people in that country. And let's say they point out maybe less than 0.01% of what's going on in that country. Now, that's not to say there aren't legitimate issues going on. Obviously, you should understand those different things. But I think you get the point here is, if you can identify a perception gap and then you travel to this country and go, hey, I wouldn't mind living here. I would actually enjoy this. you're not just sitting at home in your pajamas searching online. Some people do this. And it's sad because there's companies that profit off of this. It's like they're paying the gringo prices. Like they're putting $1 million into a property where a local could get it for $200,000. It can literally be that bad or worse sometimes. Now, I'm not saying that happens all the time, and I'm not saying that you can't find necessarily a good deal online, but really, again, the best way to do this is not just going on some ad for real estate in Malta. Rather, to find a local broker in Malta, maybe find multiple, meet with them, ask them to go to dinner or to grab coffee and speak with them. Ask them, how they feel about society. Great questions, great ways to, in my opinion, to really analyze a culture in a different country is to meet with someone in a local community and kind of pick their brain a little bit. And I'm not saying you should do this all the time, but let's say it's a real estate broker or someone that really knows what's going on. Ask them how their friends are doing. Ask them if their friends enjoy the country. Ask them, are their friends trying to move out of the country? There's a lot of countries where there's a mass exodus. A lot of people are moving. Look at Japan. This is a big problem. And again, there are multiple ways to play a narrative like this. That's what I talk about in the global investment framework video that I always have linked down below in the description. Basically, on when you identify a narrative, something that's happening in a country, a trend, and you kind of make it multiple steps deep. So you don't just identify, let's say Albania, for example. I've been talking a lot about Albania, and I'm considering doing another video on their real estate market or maybe agricultural land. But Albania, one of the narratives is a lot of the young generation want to leave Albania, which is sad to see. So this is just one step in the argument. But if you only have that and your thesis is, just because of that, I'm not going to invest there, well, how do you know that this isn't already factored into the pricing? How do you know that a lot of the coastal property is massively undervalued? I was in Durace, and it's incredibly undervalued. How do you know that the agricultural land? So you see all these different things play into the factor. So it's not just kind of this black and white easy way of thinking. With financing for real estate, I'll be straight up with you. It's a pretty complicated topic. Part of it, you cannot just do this from home. It's not like setting up an Amazon account or setting up a Robinhood account or a Cash App account or a PayPal account. No. This is going to take actual investment of your time. And I think that's almost more important than injecting capital in first, is invest your time in a country. I've spent around 3 months here now in Turkey. I'm heading to Armenia next, then Georgia, then Ukraine. And I like to invest the time there because you get the feeling of, okay, would I live here? But not just would you live in the capital city, but explore some of the other areas, maybe some of the lesser known areas, and then build your own thesis around that, identify the narratives. Again, read the local newspaper if they have it in English, or try and meet with someone that speaks English, and then maybe ask them, okay, what are the top news stories of the month, of the past year? What's been going on during this cerveza sickness, let's just call it that. And this is one of those things, again, is very, very important to keep in mind with financing foreign real estate. But I'll wrap it up with this, put a little bow on it. When you're looking at opening a bank account in another country, let's say you have a brokerage, and let's say you have a bank account open for at least a year and a half or a year. Potentially, you can get a mortgage. Again, depending on which country, consult a lawyer in that country. I would highly recommend. This isn't something that you're going to want to go to LegalZoom or some like fintech platform for, because they don't cover, at least the ones that are cheap. If you're paying a premium, you can find decent ones online for foreign real estate. But again, there's something about this in-person, face-to-face thing that I think is so vital for when you're just looking at global investment strategies. Because when someone's behind a screen, you don't have that personalization factor. You can't really feel what's going on. And I think that's very important, is kind of gauging how you feel about the situation and really taking it seriously from that perspective. So again, let's say you've had this bank account open for just a year and a half. Potentially you can qualify for a mortgage. Now the problem is if you don't have any roots in that country, you haven't made any connections, you're just thinking in your head, oh, Scotland's the place to go. I'm going to buy a castle in Scotland. I see them online. And you go, wait a second. I can't. First of all, the other thing, by the way, caveat, cash is king in foreign real estate. All of this is basically nullified with cash. That's why I call this financing foreign real estate, kind of addressing this. Because if you have cash, there's literally pretty much zero to none barriers here. It's extremely, extremely low as far as that goes. So again, kind of combining these two things, so that's, I wouldn't, as far as cash goes, that's not really financing, that's just paying up front. And if you can do that, I think that's incredible to do, especially in areas where you can get ultra cheap, something that's ultra cheap, that you have built connections that you can rent out. This is vital. That's kind of another part of the aspect. But anyways, I was going to wrap things up with this. Yes, you could potentially get a mortgage on this, but you have to have kind of roots in that country. if you can provide some things, like let's say you can provide, say you have I don't know, 100,000 euros in the bank account, you make let's just say 6,000 euros a month, and I don't know, you've made like some local connections, you've met with lawyers, you met with some bankers and things like this, you've opened maybe a brokerage account, then potentially you can qualify. And again, this is a blanket statement because there's literally over 160 countries that I could break down, and that's why I plan to do that on this channel. I'm talking about different investments in different countries, and I'll be doing that when I go to Armenia, Ukraine, and Georgia to really dig in deep. But again, if you're talking with someone and they're talking about financing foreign real estate and they haven't been to that country, that's why I'm not saying individually for one country for this video. I understand the property market here in Turkey, but this video is really addressing all of financing foreign real estate. But if someone's telling you, oh yeah, like, man, you should buy real estate in Ireland, I don't know. I'm actually Irish. I don't know if you can tell by the ears, but yeah, I am Irish. So if somebody's telling you these things and they've never been there, they don't have a bank account in this country, don't listen to them. Do not listen to someone who hasn't done what you would like to do. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, button all. Drinking a little tea here. Heading to Cappadocia in, let's see, about 2 hours now. So again, if you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, button all. Invest global, and until next time.